Awesome. All right. Good evening. My name is Gabriel Sanchez Ramos, and I'm an engineer intern for the Central Regional Design Office of New Mexico Department of Transportation. I would like to welcome you to our second public meeting. Thank you for making the time to attend today. This public meeting is for project control number 610-1220. I will now pass it to Victoria, who will go over some housekeeping items.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Please note this public meeting is being recorded. Tonight, we look forward to sharing information with you about the study, responding to your questions, and listening to your comments. After the presentation, we'll provide instructions on how you can submit comments or ask questions to the study team. Keep in mind that after this meeting, you can continue to ask questions or provide comments anytime by visiting the project website, which is www.nm.gov/project/NM264 study. Now I'll hand it over to Gabe to begin the meeting.
In tonight's meeting, we'll be covering an overview of the New Mexico location study procedures, providing details of the location where this study took place, and an overview of the study background and purpose. We will also present our alternative recommendations brought forth by the study for the future design of this corridor. We will conclude by providing our current schedule and what our next steps are. At the end of the presentation, we'll provide you all with the opportunity to voice your questions and concerns. So we'll begin with some introductions. So now we're introducing our study team. From the New Mexico Department of Transportation, we have Priscila Benavides, which is the Central Regional Design General Manager, Lisa Vega with District 6, the engineer, myself, Gabriel Sanchez Ramos, an engineer intern for Central Region Design, Arif Cosme, a District 6 Assistant District Engineer, Reyes Risby, District 6 Technical Support Engineer, and Steve Giesler from the Environmental Bureau. From our consultant, HDR, we have Ed Potoff, Project Manager, and Amanda Gutierrez, Roadway Engineer. I will now hand it off to Amanda.
Thank you, Gabe. The New Mexico 264 project study started in the spring and summer of last year with the documenting of the existing conditions. And then in the fall and winter of 2022, we identified and started the evaluation of alternatives. The first public meeting was held on August 23rd of 2022, where we received comments from the public and then incorporated the comments to the extent feasible into the alternatives evaluated. In the spring of 2023, we prepared the alignment study report where the recommended alternatives were identified. And then today we are hosting our second public meeting. From this meeting, we will incorporate any input from this meeting and complete the Phase 1B alignment study in the summer of this year. So like I stated before, the first public meeting was held on Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022, where we presented the project study overview. We discussed the preliminary purpose and need, the existing conditions, and the potential highway improvements. We also sought public input. So out of the public meeting, there were some common themes. The first concern was specific locations and general drainage concerns. With these concerns, we met on site with the New Mexico Department of Transportation District Maintenance staff to specifically evaluate areas mentioned in the meeting. And then we also saw areas where the maintenance staff saw concerns. Pavement condition was another concern. Our recommendations address pavement conditions throughout the entire corridor with a full reconstruction to establish a longer pavement life over rehabilitation. For the lighting concern, our recommendations address the addition of lighting at specific locations throughout the corridor that could be subject to low light safety concerns. Overall, safety is a concern for the corridor and was considered throughout the alignment study.
So the study location on the overall New Mexico map here is shown as New Mexico 264. It starts at the Arizona-New Mexico state line and travels east to Yah-Ta-Hey. A more detailed map shows the study location, again, starting at the Arizona-New Mexico state line at milepost 0, traveling east through Bonito to the west to Yah-Ta-Hey, where it terminates at the intersection with US 491. In the middle section, you can see from milepost 10 to 14, there's an additional segment that is proceeding to final design and currently has construction funding identified. The corridor itself has 3 distinctly different segments. Each segment has its unique characteristics, and so they were evaluated separately. On the far west end at milepost 0 to milepost 0.6 through Bonito, an urban alternative was evaluated. Traveling to the east through the rural section to Yah-Ta-Hey, a more rural with limited access alternatives were identified. And finally, on the east side at milepost 15 to milepost 16 through Yah-Ta-Hey, it was a combination of urban and rural conditions, and so those conditions were evaluated separately. As part of the New Mexico 264 alignment study to date, we've documented the existing conditions. That's where we go in and look at specific elements in the corridor that may need improvement or to be addressed. Additionally, we looked at traffic and safety areas of concern. Transportation needs analysis was performed to identify speed characteristics and other elements that we'll cover later in this presentation. It also investigated sensitive cultural and biological resources, and it identified improvement alternatives broken up into those 3 distinct segments I discussed earlier. Amanda mentioned the meeting where we sought public input and agency feedback, and from that point we developed alternatives, evaluated them, and proposed those recommended improvement alternatives. The purpose and need of the project is really the backbone. It's what needs to be addressed throughout the corridor specific to this project. And really, this one of the main elements, or one of the several elements, was to address the existing conditions of the roadway. That includes pavement condition, it includes geometry, it includes other elements that could impact the safety of the corridor. Additionally, we looked to improve drainage conditions. Some of the elements that we saw in the corridor included significant erosion and sediment transportation that needed to be addressed. Also, we looked to improve the multimodal access in the corridor, not only in the urban section, but through the rural and urban-rural section as well. And all of these really add to improving the overall safety of the corridor. So as far as the existing conditions go, the top picture shows a location that has poor pavement and some really outdated striping. This is not a unique photo in the corridor. The pavement condition is pretty poor throughout the full 16-mile corridor. In the middle, we see some substandard roadside guardrail. Since this guardrail was installed, the standards have been evaluated, tested, and improved. So there are better systems for handling the roadside obstacles. And then on the bottom, we picked a segment through Bonito to note the significant sediment deposits. You can see that the sediment buildup makes the sidewalk almost unusable. Pedestrian access routes don't currently meet ADA standards. In the top picture, you can see the curb ramp at Alma Drive in New Mexico 264. Not only does it have significant sediment at it, but it doesn't meet the current standards as far as ramp slopes and grades. And then the middle picture really shows the issue of erosion throughout the corridor. This is not unique to this location. There are several at the pipe outlets that are experiencing similar erosion. And then the bottom picture shows the sediment deposits within a pipe, really limiting the capacity of the pipe, and in some locations causing water to overtop the road.
So for the urban section through Say Bonito, from milepost 0 to 0.6, the existing typical section consists of a 12-foot two-way left turn lane, two 12-foot driving lanes in each direction, and two 2-foot outside shoulders with 5-foot existing sidewalks on both sides of the road. For the rural section, this is milepost 0.6 to milepost 15.5. The existing typical section is a 16-foot raised median. There's two 12-foot driving lanes in each direction, 10-foot outside shoulders, and 4-foot inside shoulders. So in the rural section, for the existing left turn lane areas, there is an 8-foot raised median and a 12-foot dedicated left turn lane. The remainder of the typical stays the same from the previous slide. This slide is showing, for the eastbound traffic, the 12-foot dedicated left turn lane. And then this slide is showing the westbound 12-foot dedicated left turn lane with the 8-foot median. Now for the urban rural section through Yah-Ta-Hey, from milepost 15.5 to milepost 16, the existing typical section is a 16-foot two-way left turn lane. There's two 12-foot driving lanes in each direction and 10-foot outside shoulders.
So as part of the transportation needs analysis, there was a crash study done throughout the corridor. This is a crash location heat map that indicates locations where crashes are more dense than other locations. The red areas indicate where it is a little bit more dense than the rest of the locations. And not surprisingly, you can see through Say Bonito and through Yah-Ta-Hey that number of crashes are more dense than many other areas throughout the corridor. There are a couple other locations, like at milepost 5 and 6, where you can see some increased crashes, which are likely due to the roadway geometry, whether that be horizontal or vertical alignments. And then there are a couple spot locations throughout the corridor at milepost 8, at 11, 12, that may be due to either vertical geometry or low lighting through the corridor. So as part of the study process, we developed the initial alternatives. We took into account the existing conditions and the transportation needs analysis and the elements that go into that. And we revised the alternatives based on the project needs. So as part of the evaluation of the final alternatives, we started by including the no-build alternative. The no-build alternative is the alternative where no improvements in the corridor are done, and it's compared and scored against the proposed alternatives. So for the urban section, we had the no-build alternative plus 6 additional alternatives. For the rural section, we had the no-build plus 3 additional. Area, we established the final recommendations, and that's where we are now.
So for the urban segment, the recommended alternative is alternative 3, which consists of a 16-foot two-way left turn lane, 2 12-foot driving lanes in each direction, 6-foot bike lanes, and 6-foot sidewalks on both sides of the road. During the final design, the team can investigate the potential of including a bike lane buffer by reducing the driving lane width. At the signalized intersection of New Mexico 264 with Alma Drive, the recommended typical section has a 4-foot stripe median and a 12-foot dedicated left turn lane, 2 12-foot driving lanes in each direction, 6-foot bike lanes, and 6-foot sidewalks on each side. The urban section traffic improvement recommendations include dynamic speed feedback signs at the beginning and end of the segment to help address speeding concerns in the corridor. You will see this throughout the rest of the recommendations in each segment. Another recommendation is proposed roadway lighting at the beginning and at the end of the urban section, as well as near the bus stop just west of the Alma Drive intersection. So recommendations for improvements to the Alma Drive signalized intersection will include dedicated left turn lanes on all legs of the intersection, updated traffic and pedestrian signals, updated curb ramps, and improved striping, including stop bars and crosswalks. The recommended drainage improvements for the urban section include replacement of the turnout crossing culverts, building of sediment traps, and erosion control. As you can see below, there's examples of erosion control with a check dam and a sediment trap. Sediment traps, they pond the water to allow sediment to settle out before releasing the flow at the inlet or outlet, which will reduce sediment buildup in the pipe and from the roadway. Other improvements include reconstruction of the roadside ditch on the north side of New Mexico 264, as well as updating the existing storm drain system through Say Bonito. So for the rural segment, from milepost 0.6 to milepost 15.5, the recommended alternative is alternative 4, which consists of an 8-foot stripe median, 2 12-foot driving lanes in each direction, 8-foot outside shoulders, and then rumble strips will be included in both the outside shoulder and in the median. So for the areas in this rural area where they have existing left turn lanes, the recommended typical section will have a 4-foot stripe median, a 12-foot dedicated left turn lane, 2 12-foot driving lanes in each direction, and 8-foot outside shoulders. Rumble strips again will be added to the outside shoulder and to the median. So for this section, the recommended traffic improvements will include dynamic speed feedback signs throughout the area, proposed roadway lighting at milepost 5.3, 5.5, 6, 8.2, and 8.9. Installation of roadway curve warning signs for the reverse curves between milepost 5 and milepost 7. Installation of stop signs at all turnouts. An addition of a right turn lane for eastbound New Mexico 264 at Defiance Road and Windy Mesa Drive. And then an acceleration lane for westbound New Mexico 264 at Wildcat Drive. For the bridge at milepost 4.2, the recommended improvements are a bridge deck replacement and then minor rehabilitation to the structure itself. The recommended drainage improvements for the rural section will include replacement of existing turnout crossing culverts, building of sediment traps and erosion control, and then reconstruction of drainage culverts. For the urban-rural segment through Yah-Ta-Hey from milepost 15.5 to milepost 16, the recommended alternative is alternative 3, which consists of a 16-foot two-way left turn lane, 2 12-foot driving lanes in each direction, and 8-foot outside shoulders. Rumble strips will be added to the outside shoulder. Okay, for this section, the recommended traffic improvements will include, again, dynamic speed feedback signs at the beginning of the segment and on the west side of North Clee-Kai Drive. There will be upgrading of the existing roadway lighting, installation of roadway curve warning signs for westbound New Mexico 264 at the US 491 interchange, removal of the turnout at North Ola Road with the addition of a frontage road along the north side of New Mexico 264, similar to the one on the south between South Clee-Kai Drive and South Laba Drive. And then the addition of a right turn lane for eastbound New Mexico 264 at South Clee-Kai Drive and South Laba Drive, and for westbound New Mexico 264 at North Clee-Kai Drive. So the recommended drainage improvements for the urban-rural section include replacement of all the existing turnout crossing culverts, building of a roadside ditch and erosion control, and reconstruct the drainage culverts. So in summary, the alignment study corridor recommendations include improved guardrails, improvements to the pavement conditions, improvements to the turnout access, upgrade to the signal at Alma Drive, updated pavement striping and signs, the addition of dynamic speed feedback signs, improvement to the drainage infrastructure, and improved bicycle and pedestrian facilities.
Access management is a big driver of safety in any corridor, especially those that have more densely packed access locations. The NMDOT has a access management manual that defines the minimum distance between turnouts to improve safety. As such, access consolidation and potential closing of locations are identified as part of the study. Through Se Bonito, the main section across the top, you can see turnout numbers highlighted in green. Those are locations that we're recommending be consolidated into a single access. And then those shown in red are accesses that are too densely packed and would be closed and routed to existing turnout locations. It's essentially consolidation as well. So in the lower left corner, Navajo Petroleum and Say Bonito Mobile Home Park, you can see that both 4 and 5 will be combined into a single access. And the second to the left is driveways 8 and 10. Those have access to existing turnouts directly next door. And so those are where those accesses would be provided. And then second from the right, accesses 18 and 21 have access through the existing turnout at 19 through an essential frontage road application. And then finally on the right, the auto parts store has 2 current drive pads. One would be recommended to be closed with access remaining at turnout at 22. And then on the east end of the project, Amanda already mentioned the closing of the turnout at North Ola Road. You can see here, North Ola Road access would be provided through a frontage road, similar to the south of New Mexico 264, and access would be provided either at North Klikai Drive or at North Lava Drive.
For segment 1, this map shows the limits for segment 1 in the blue color from milepost 10 to 14. This is the final design area that currently has construction funding. So for segment 1, we started the project in the summer of 2022 with the environmental documentation effort and the preliminary design. As we moved into the fall of 2022, we started the final design efforts that will be completed in the fall of 2023, and then construction starting in the spring of 2024. Similar to the recommended improvements in the alignment study, segment 1 proposed improvements will include reconstruction of the existing pavement, improvements to the roadway geometry and drainage infrastructure, and updating to the roadside guardrails, signs, and pavement markings. During construction, traffic speed will be reduced with 1 lane of traffic in each direction, and the turnouts on the north and south of New Mexico 264 will remain open and will be maintained throughout the project duration. The proposed typical section for this segment will consist of an 8-foot striped median, 2 12-foot driving lanes in each direction, and 8-foot outside shoulders. Rumble strips will be included on the outside shoulder as well as in the median. So for the areas with the left turn access, there will be a 4-foot striped median with a 12-foot dedicated left turn lane, 2 12-foot driving lanes in each direction, and the 8-foot shoulder on the outside. Rumble strips will again be on the outside shoulder as well as in the median.
So the overall project schedule to provide a summary of the entire corridor itself. Spring, summer 2022, we established the need for the improvements. Fall 2022, we had the first public meeting, as well as identifying the improvement alternatives. And then fall, winter 2022, we evaluated those alternatives and prepared the draft study. Spring 2023, we're having our second public meeting tonight, where we're identifying the recommended alternatives. This summer, after providing input from this public meeting, we will complete the 264 alignment study. Then in the spring of 2024 is the anticipated start of construction for the segment 1 from milepost 10 to 14. So for next steps, we mentioned the construction of segment 1 from 10 to 14. For the remainder of the corridor, the preliminary and final design will take place. We need to note at this point that there's no funding identified for the construction beyond segment 1. And based on the length and the cost, it is likely that that remaining section would be constructed in phases. So to provide comments, the website link is above, www.dot.nm.gov/projects/New Mexico 264 study, or you can call area code 505-357-7327, or you can email us at NM264study@hdrinc.com. And by regular mail, you can send to New Mexico 264 Study, care of Victoria Remenko, HDR Engineering, at 2155 Louisiana Boulevard, Northeast, number 3000, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87110. Please note that we would appreciate to receive these comments by June 16th. With that, we would like to take any questions. I think in a second, you're going to see how to ask them. To ask a question.
All right, we are moving into the question and answer portion of the meeting. If you would like to verbally ask a question, you can simply raise your hand. You'll just see that reactions button at the bottom of your screen. You can click that and then click the hand raise icon. If you're joining by phone, you can press *9 to give us that raised hand signal. And when your name is called, we will allow you to speak. You can also press *6 to unmute your line. When you are done speaking, simply lower your hand by pressing *9 again and mute your line. Again, if you would like to ask a verbal question, you can just give us that hand raise signal. If you would like to type in a question, you can simply use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen as well. You'll see that little Q&A icon. Simply click on that, enter your question into the box, and then hit send. And with that, I will move into questions for us. It looks like we have a couple in the queue. So attendee number 4, I'm going to go ahead and allow you to speak and you can ask your question live. You are unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, my name is Robert Moss. I'm with Clayton Investment Company in Farmington, New Mexico. We own land that is in the urban segment in the first half mile at Say Benito. And there was a comment made about one of the access points that was going to be eliminated. I believe it was access point number 24. It's just to the east of O'Reilly Auto Parts. And I believe the comment was that that access point belonged to O'Reilly Auto Parts. And in truth, I don't believe that's true. I think that access point is for land owned by Clayton Investment Company. And so removing that access point would remove our access to that property there from the highway. So I don't know, I guess my question is, how does that get resolved if there is an issue with the landowner having a problem with access being removed and really having a detrimental effect on the value of the property?
So the first thing you do is bring up a comment in a public meeting. So we hear your concern. We will, or the project team will evaluate as part of the final design all of the individual property accesses. And if it is accessing a separate individual property, then that access would be maintained or would be recommended to be maintained.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I do see another hand raised, attendee number 2. I'm going to go ahead and request you unmute your line and you can ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great, thank you. Thank you again for the opportunity to provide this forum. Again, I had the chance last go around a few months ago to attend your, I think the first that you had. But I was looking at the San Benito map that you had, and I agree with some of the, at least two or three of the areas I saw marked red through all the businesses along that
Hi,
route.
I'm so sorry. We're
It
having a
would be
little bit of trouble
reduced. I
hearing you.
think that's helpful because sometimes when you're driving through there's just, when there's congestion just as well, that people are trying to figure out putting that in there. The second thing, I just came out back from work from Gallup.
Hi, I think we may have lost your audio. Okay, well, attendee number 2, if you hop back on, we can get you reconnected. Go ahead and just give us that hand raised signal again. And with that, we don't have any more hand raised. We do have a couple of questions in the queue. Our first question is segment 1 will have the pavement section. Will the pavement section be evaluated on life cycle cost analysis? And Ed, I will throw that back to you.
So the pavement condition that's there now is so poor that it is anticipated that the recommendation is a full depth reconstruction with a brand new pavement section. Any type of rehab would just essentially disintegrate based on the subsurface conditions that really reflect what we're seeing as far as the surface conditions right now.
Thank you, Ed. We also have another question. I joined initially but was removed. Am I not able to join again? Lisa, it looks like you are still on here. And then you asked me, I get a copy of the PowerPoint presentation. Yes, a copy of the presentation will be available on the study website. We can throw that study website in the chat so everyone has access to it. But a copy of this presentation, as well as a recording of this meeting, will be posted shortly after the meeting this evening. And then we have another question from attendee 8. I am interested in knowing why you are recommending lights at mileposts 5.3 and 5.6. And Ed, I'll pass that to you.
Yeah, those specific locations, I can't recall if they're due to geometry or due to other crash elements. But typically those locations for additional lighting, especially in the rural area, were due to low-level site concerns, low-level lighting site concerns.
Thank you, Ed. I do see our attendee number 2 has your hand back up. We'll go ahead and unmute you so you can finish your comment.
Okay, how about now?
You are good to go.
Okay, great, thank you. So where I left off was on the P&M bridge. that I heard that was going to be improved, which I'm glad to hear. And around that area, the last go around, I did comment that during the winter time, when you're coming down that hill slope, it's very dangerous. And I did see that on the accident reports, seemed like seemed like an area. So, you know, it's good that the study came out to show that as well. And then the other area is by Yah-Ta-Hey. I think is it Logan Boulevard, just not too far from the dollar store, family dollar store. There's a big tree there that is really in the way, because I mentioned last time that when the buses come out from that area early in the morning to work, that's really a dangerous site for them, because they end up actually almost being on the road when they have to turn. So I just wanted to bring that back to your attention once more again. And I thank you for trying to move forward with this project. Thank you again.
Well, we certainly appreciate your input. We didn't fully get your question through Say Bonito, but the access consolidation element, again, is due to controlling the locations that cars enter the roadway. And it really is a traffic safety concern, and really a big push, especially through areas like that. So we certainly appreciate your input.
Thank you, Ed. We do have a couple more questions. Sam, I see your hand is raised. I'm going to go ahead and allow you to unmute your line, and you can ask your question.
Hi there. I'm a resident in San Benito. So just had a question about it looked like on the map or the slides that the department was going to combine the turn off, I guess, into Navajo Petroleum and that trailer park. So my question is, was there consideration for school buses from Gallup, McKinley County? They usually turn, you know, at that, I guess, turn off where the San Benito Mobile Home Park is. And they would kind of, I guess, round about onto that, like a dirt, I don't know, it's like, it's really not, it's like a dirt patch in front of the trailer park. And there's like, I guess, was that taken into consideration for the school buses that do pick up kids and drop off kids there? Like, in that, I guess, between the highway, the trailer park / yeah, I would say, yeah, that was, I don't know if that was addressed or not.
The recommendations that were provided are primarily due to the density of the turnout locations. And so I understand the issue of providing a loop for the school bus to go through there. One of the things we looked at was whether that loop could be maintained based on using the existing turnout at 2 that you see, and then using that same combined access to complete that loop. Essentially, we've got 2 turnouts at 4 and 5 that are very closely spaced together, and really it's just combining the 2 and not moving either one of them any significant distance.
Thank you, Ed.
I hope that answers your question.
Oh yeah, it does answer my question, because I'd be seeing people just drive through that with, like, I don't know, coming across like they won't use the main road because it's just such a short distance. They will just drive through that, and I think there's like a water line or something between the petroleum and the trailer park too. But people not really a water line, but there's that area and people just drive over it. And knowing and that, I don't know, they don't want to, get back on the road and then turn again. So that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you again for your comment.
Thank you. I do see another hand raised, attendee 8. I'm going to allow you to talk and you can ask your question live.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I originally asked the question about lighting, and I think there's more lighting than just milepost 5.3 and 5.6, but those were what I remembered. I understand the answer to my question of why you're seeking to put lighting there. I would like to go on record and know how I can continue to oppose the lighting that is recommended or suggested in that area.
So certainly make the comment now. During final design, there will be additional public meetings when that segment comes up. And if the lighting is still recommended in that area, you certainly will have your chance to voice your opinion again. It will be included in the study document based on your input at this meeting. So it will be considered as part of that evaluation of the final design. I just want to emphasize that these are recommended improvements now. Certainly when the final design happens, things change within the corridor, and so that they'll look at additional details that may be in place at that time that aren't in place now. But you'll certainly have an opportunity to provide further input. I'm curious why you would oppose it though, so we can make sure to include that in the study document.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. I would be opposed to the lighting for a couple of reasons. The first one is I believe it would be pollution to begin with. Second, I don't think it would be a good use of the funds that would it take to install the lighting and then to maintain the lighting. And three, I don't see the value of having the lighting in that area as I would consider the non-lighting of other areas that you've spoken of in this meeting.
Okay, we'll certainly document that. And as I mentioned, you will have an opportunity to provide further feedback as part of the final design.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then attendee 2, I did see you just put another additional comment just to clarify your original live comments, but you did say, my comment on San Benito was, I am glad to see a few reduced turnouts because today there are just too many that causes last minute turns to the businesses. So thank you for that. Yeah. Okay. I'm not seeing any other questions coming through at this time. Again, if you'd like to ask a question, you can use that Q&A box or raise your hand. And if you're a call-in only user, you can press that *9 on your phone. And I do see a call-in user has their hand raised, so I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute your line. And you can just press *6 to unmute.
Here we go.
You are
yes,
unmuted.
hi, this is unmuted.
You are unmuted.
Oh, thank you. This is Jim Davis from milepost 5.5, Black Hat, New Mexico. You mentioned the erosion thing. It's been a big concern of myself and my neighbor, James Mariano, but nobody seems to really be looking at it. It is a really bad flood zone through there. I'm just hoping you guys are looking at that culvert that goes underneath the highway there and looking at the other side with St. James. And that was my first concern. My second one, I know I'm going to ask, just get on the record, I do want a decel lane on the eastbound lane, but it would look like San Benito if you did it. So, but I do want that on the record. I would like a decel lane on the eastbound lane, but I have been told I will not get it. And not really happy that you removed me by the host. So really a waste of my time tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Ed and Amanda, do you have anything to add to that?
We certainly will note that all of the drainage culverts in the corridor are being addressed, and we recognize that location as well as several others within the corridor that need to be addressed. And as Amanda went through the recommended alternatives, the replacing of those drainage crossings was a significant part of the project, upsizing and really making sure that they maintain capacity and keep the sediment off the roadway and out of the pipe.
Thank you, Ed. And we do apologize for any technical issues about getting access back into the meeting. This meeting was recorded and will be available online, so you can watch it kind of at your own convenience anytime between now and June 16th. So if you did miss anything, please check back at the website. We will have this meeting posted and recorded, and we'll also have this presentation available on the meeting website as well. So if you have any questions following that, you can absolutely reach out to us through email, by phone, mail, or we also have a comment form on the website that you can access to. So if you have any questions after this meeting, you can absolutely ask them anytime between now and June 16th. And I do see we still have a hand raised from our call-in user. I'm just going to ask to unmute. So if you have another question, we can answer that for you. Okay. I don't see any other questions. We did put a link in the Q&A boxes. So if you would like to visit that study website, you can check back in those, and there's a direct link to everything if you would like to access that. But again, I'll go ahead and throw that up on the screen for folks. If you would like to visit us, you can check out our project website at www.dot.nm.gov/projects/NM264 study. And again, this presentation will be available online following the meeting. You'll have the recording and the PDF. And then if you have any other questions after that, please feel free to reach out to us at that time. And I don't see any other questions, so I will pass it back to Ed, Amanda, and Gabe to close us out for the evening.
Yes, good evening. Again, we want to give thanks to you guys providing your time and your feedback. So again, if you have any comments, please provide those by June 16th. Thank you and have a good night.